Emmanuel Shachaf, hello.
Hello, hello.
Identity, the quest for Israel's better future. Gadi Eisenkot, Major General of the Israeli Army, former Major General, is coming and making the steps toward the Israeli politics. He steps in, and you would tell him today what exactly?
He picked the default option of supporting a two-state solution, warning of impending doom if we don't separate from the Palestinians. But by doing so, he basically supports the status quo, and whoever supports the status quo basically, in the end, will get a one-state solution.
Because basically, even within its own party, he has so many different right-wings opinion that would clarify that two-state solution is not an option.
It's not an option. No, the two extremes in his parties will not permit anything resembling a two-state solution. I think he's smart enough to know that. He probably said what he said because he thought it was the right thing to say at the time. He probably will not be, or it's very likely that he won't be able to stand behind his declaration. And I hope he thinks like we do, that a one-state scenario is not something to be afraid of.
And the last army encounter in the Gaza, how would you summarize the results?
Well, it was short, but not painless. It appeared painless to the Israeli side because it didn't last long. Usually the previous operations lasted between 2 and 3 weeks. But it caused a lot of damage to the Palestinian side, and whoever thought that we are getting better and more careful trying to avoid hitting civilians, someone, Dr. Yagir Levy, Professor Yagir Levy made some research, and using the numbers provided by the Israeli side, it's clear that consistently we kill about 40% non-combatants in these actions, which is 40% of those killed are non-combatants or civilians, and this is a very high number. Very high number. The use of very sophisticated ammunitions doesn't improve the situation. Apparently, either because maybe the army is tempted to use more of the sophisticated ammunitions, or whatever policy decision they make, the end result is gruesome, sadly enough.
And you're saying that basically when you're former working in the Israeli Defense Forces, in the Air Force, in the Mossad, you're saying that the unique and very powerful and technological weapon and defense is not something that provides 100% proof of killing innocent people.
You think that you're doing a better job, and you can talk yourself into it.
And you might have great intentions, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. Obviously, we don't want to kill civilians. But the fact that you have all these fancy ammunitions available, it makes your finger easier on the trigger, and the end result is the same. Consistently during the last 3 operations, between 40 and 42% of the victims were uninvolved civilians, and that's a very high number.
You're talking, Emmanuel Shachar, about the end solution of this operation, but the ongoing situation between Israel and the Palestinians, even behind the scenes, is something that many Arabs are still suffering.
Yes, we have the conflict is going on all the time. We had yesterday a Palestinian was killed by the border guards in Jerusalem under very strange circumstances. There's a Palestinian on hunger strike. He's been on hunger strike for 165 years. He's in administrative detention for 2 years already. Palestinian was attacked by settlers in the West Bank. That wasn't even broadcast in the news.
Wow.
It's something going. We recently discovered a tunnel from Hamas to tunnel into Israel. So there's a constant conflict going on all the time, and just like Gadi Eisenkot said in his opening speech, this is going to blow. The question is not if it's going to blow, the question is when it's going to blow. And just like Eisenkot suggested, I agree with that. It's going to happen in the most inconvenient moment for Israel.
If you would have 1 minute together, you and Gadi Eisenkot, what first step would you recommend him towards the federation idea?
I think the best step to take is to try to start implementing the report by the commission that was created by the Ministry of the Interior to split Israel into provinces, into cantons and separate cantons, in order to improve the separation of the governance and create regional governance and make it easier for the economy in the outlying areas to develop. That can be a great basis for a federal state, and Palestinian areas can be added on then as it becomes possible.
You know, you're about to launch the new book in Arabic, the translation to Arabic, Identity, the Quest for Israel's Better Future. If you would share one basic understanding, one basic message in the coming weeks or months towards the elections, what message would it be?
I think the most important thing is for the Arab population to go to vote. I think they realize, the Arab population realizes that it's important. I think Jews have to help tell all their Arab friends to go vote and not to be discouraged by the situation. I think the Arab participation in the vote is critical to make sure that whatever government will be formed will have Arab participation in it. And we have to do everything we can to make that happen.
Towards the ending of your reports, our conversation, every time you're finding somewhere an upside, a good news that you would like to share, what would it be this time?
There are two parties in the state of formation right now, which are Arab-Jewish parties. One of them is a party around former Speaker of the Knesset, Avraham Burg. It's a civil party. It promotes a civil agenda and will be equally Arab and Jewish. It's in early stages of formation, but it should happen within the next month because that's the deadline. And there's another party which was already in one of the previous elections active. It's called the Green Leaf Party, Alei Yarok, which actually formed an Abrahamic alliance with an Arab from the town of Tira, and they're promoting also an equitable agenda. And it's those two parties running on a similar background and equally involving Jews and Arabs is a good sign.
Well, you're talking about a kind of equalness between the Arab and the Jewish Israeli members within these parties. You're saying maybe it's the right and direct approach here and now, or you're saying maybe towards the Jewish inside, it's something that might make some of the potential voters feel uncomfortable.
It'll definitely make Jewish voters feel uncomfortable. That doesn't mean it's not a bad idea to go with it for the first time, to make an impact, and to see that we can do it. Later on it'll be easier to correct things which didn't work out the first time. But it's going to be a problem for Jews to be in an equitable party with Arabs, unfortunately.
For the time being.
For the time being, yes.
Emmanuel Shachar, people that want to be part of this community of the Federation of Identity, the Quest for Israel's Better Future, towards also the launching of the new version of the book, not only in Hebrew, but also in English and Arabic, what and where they can find you?
Emmanuel Shachar, Federation Movement, and Identity, the Quest for Israel's Future are all pages on Facebook, and you can contact me through there.
Only with respectful comments.
Preferably, yes.
Emmanuel Shachaf, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.